In a year marked by political polarization, economic instability, and other crises, not all news stories presented a bleak portrait of the current moment. These accounts of surprise discoveries delighted viewers, leaving all of us to ask what awaits us next year. Spanning disciplines, historical eras, geographic locations, and cultures, some artifacts were first unearthed years ago, but only documented now, while others were identified more recently. These discoveries enrich our understanding of history and ignite our imagination about the past. From Ramses II's long-lost sarcophagus to the world's oldest deep-sea shipwreck, these were 77 of the most fascinating finds in 2024. Each discovery tells a unique story, shedding light on different aspects of human civilization and our shared heritage. For as long as humans have been making art, natural disasters, the ravages of time, theft, and iconoclasm have threatened their creation's survival. Though countless masterpieces have vanished over the millennia, many others remain hidden away, tucked in attics, basements, and even thrift stores. These hidden treasures often hold stories waiting to be told. Luck and a keen eye helped members of the public recover some of these missing artworks, leading them to take a second look at items dismissed by others as worthless. Last year, several ordinary people became accidental archaeologists, uncovering pieces of history in the most unexpected places. When Matt Winter was 11 years old, he rescued a print by Renaissance master Albrecht Dürer from a pile of rubbish a woman had deposited at the local dump. This seemingly insignificant act of curiosity turned out to be a life-changing moment for Winter. He said, "I thought it looked interesting and asked if I could have it. She was more than happy to give it to me because she wanted it to go to someone rather than just throwing it away." Little did she know, this print would become a significant find in the art world. In September, more than a decade after Winter's find, the 500-year-old print sold at auction for more than $40,000. Winter obtained his masterpiece for free, but others shelled out a small amount of money, which they later recouped, and then some, upon discovering the true value of their finds. These stories remind us that sometimes the most valuable treasures are hidden in plain sight. Similarly profitable and culturally significant purchases included a $20 box of vintage reels containing a lost film starring silent movie star Clara Bow, and a Victorian brooch, acquired at an antique fair for $25, which sold for around $12,000 earlier this year. These finds not only brought financial gain but also added to our cultural heritage. The woman who owned the jewelry only learned of its significance after seeing sketches of other brooches designed by the same artist on an episode of Antiques Roadshow. This serendipitous discovery highlights the importance of knowledge and awareness in recognizing the value of seemingly ordinary objects. While some artworks emerged by chance, others materialized through technological analysis and scholarship. Advanced imaging tools and conservation uncovered a hidden self-portrait on the back of a Norman Cornish bar scene, and drawings that may be among William Blake's earliest engravings. These technological advancements are revolutionizing the way we discover and understand historical artifacts. These doodles reveal personal, intimate moments not intended to be seen by anyone other than the artist, said a scholar who spotted the possible Blake drawings while scanning the reverse side of 18th century printing plates. For the first time since they were made, we can now see the young apprentice's practice work and doodling. Outside of the realm of visual arts, several forgotten musical, literary, and theatrical works resurfaced in 2024. Researchers trawling through libraries and archives stumbled onto an early ghost story by Dracula author Bram Stoker, a 12-minute composition written by a teenage Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and 800 pages of sheet music from George Gershwin's first full-length musical. These discoveries add to our understanding of these artists and enrich our cultural history. Titled La La Lucille, the 1919 production was previously known through just a few surviving score snippets. The rediscovery of these pages allows us to experience the full breadth of Gershwin's early work. Thanks to chance discovery, Broadway fans can now hear what the show's songs would have sounded like with full orchestration. These finds remind us that history is full of surprises, waiting to be uncovered by those with curiosity and a keen eye. The names of the artists who crafted these millennia-old works are unknown, but their creations live on, offering enduring glimpses into now-lost civilizations. In Pompeii, the Roman city was razed by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 CE. Ongoing excavations have revealed a trove of archaeological treasures, including frescoes of such mythological figures as Phaedra, a Cretan princess who falls in love with her stepson Hippolytus, the twins Phrixus and Helle, and Helen of Troy and Paris, the doomed lovers whose romance sparked the Trojan War. Elsewhere in Pompeii, archaeologists found an ancient shrine with brilliant blue walls and paintings of women representing the four seasons. Off the shore of Naples, Italy, divers examined an underwater mosaic dated to around the 3rd century CE. The tiles once formed part of a porch at a luxury villa in Baiae, a city sometimes described as the Las Vegas of ancient Rome. The house toppled into the Gulf of Pozzuoli centuries ago, falling victim to a geological phenomenon known as bradyseism, in which the land surrounding a volcano alternates between periods of sinking and rising. Continuing the aquatic theme, archaeologists exploring Viraconium Cornoviorum, a Roman city in what is now northwestern England, excavated a colorful mosaic featuring dolphins and fish, which was likely installed in a wealthy family's home to impress important visitors. It's very much in line with the taste of the time, so this is someone who knows about fashion and what to put on your mosaics. Military conflicts tend to leave their mark on the landscape, dotting battlefields with weapons, armor, and other traces of bloodshed. In 2024, archaeological evidence of armed conflicts spanned the ancient era through World War II. On the older end of the spectrum, mud brick barracks possibly used by Ramses II's army in the ruins of a temporary rest house dating to the reign of Thutmose III offered valuable insights into life in the ancient Egyptian military. Researchers excavated cow and fish bones, scarab jewelry, and engraved weapons at the dig site associated with Ramses. Archaeological digs also generated tangible traces of famous battles. In England, experts unearthed 8 stone balls fired from catapults during Henry III's siege of Kenilworth Castle in 1266. The projectiles, which played a key role in the English king's 172-day siege of a beleaguered rebel stronghold, range in weight from that of a cabbage to that of a giant panda. Across the Atlantic Ocean in Massachusetts, archaeologists dug up a set of much smaller projectiles. 5 musket balls fired during the battles of Lexington and Concord on April 19, 1775. Shipwrecks bore witness to a 20th century war that cleaved the world in two, separating countries into Axis and Allied powers. Researchers announced the discovery of the Ghost Ship of the Pacific, an American vessel that the Japanese repurposed after the latter seized control of the Indonesian island of Java during World War II. Soon, far-ranging Allied pilots began reporting the strange sight of an old American destroyer operating deep behind enemy lines. The U.S. Navy recovered the ship at the end of the war, then deliberately sank it in May 1946. On the Scottish Isle of Arran, ecological restoration of a peatland revealed the propeller blade of an ill-fated World War II plane. Because the device was found with a rope still tied around it, researchers suspect it was moved during the cleanup of a wartime crash site in the 1940s or 1980s. Someone might have been dragging the propeller down the hill when it sank deep into the peat, not to be recovered until now. Prehistory, broadly defined as the period between the invention of stone tools 2.6 million years ago and the development of writing systems in the 4th millennium BCE, can be difficult to parse given the lack of documentation. However, the physical evidence of people who lived many millennia ago helps illustrate prehistoric life, underscoring surprising parallels with modern society. Some of the oldest finds recorded this year were a human-like jawbone and teeth embedded in a travertine floor tile in Europe. A dentist noticed the remains during a visit to his parents' recently renovated home. The limestone used to craft the tile was quarried from Turkey's Denizli Basin, dating its formation to between 0.7 million and 1.8 million years ago. Scholars are now working with the dentist to remove the tile and determine the age of the jawbone and teeth. Skipping ahead hundreds of millennia, researchers uncovered stirring examples of prehistoric people's artistic inclinations. A sand sculpture that may have been shaped to resemble a blue stingray around 130,000 years ago, and a 130,000-year-old bare bone featuring Neanderthal carvings. The precise parallel nature of the incisions in the bare bone suggests that they were a cultural practice that had meaning and function, and not, says, the product of unconscious personal habits like modern doodling. Closer to 13,500 to 12,000 years ago, Paleo-Indian North Americans in what is now Wyoming carved needles out of small carnivores' bones, a discovery that surprised modern archaeologists, who'd expected the tools to be made out of bison or mammoth bone. Another unexpected find that sheds light on prehistoric humans' everyday lives came from Germany, where scholars analyzed a 5,000-year-old ceramic pot filled with remnants of burnt porridge. The monarchs who commanded ancient Egypt, the Roman Empire, medieval England and other realms wield much fascination for historians and the public alike. This year's royal-related finds span continents and millennia, beginning with Ramses II, the Egyptian pharaoh who reigned in the 13th century BCE. After assessing a granite fragment uncovered in the Abydos necropolis in 2009, Egyptologists identified it as Ramses's long-lost sarcophagus. One of 3 nested coffins crafted to hold the ruler's remains, the granite sarcophagus housed a smaller alabaster sarcophagus that in turn contained a gilded wooden coffin. Archaeologists found the wooden coffin and Ramses' mummy in a hiding place at the Deir el-Bahari temple complex in 1881, but the alabaster and granite sarcophagi were missing, likely looted by ancient tomb robbers. Thanks to research, experts now know that the granite sarcophagus was reused by a high priest named Menkaper around 1000 BCE, masking its connection to its original occupant. In other Ramses-centric news, an excavation in Egypt unearthed the upper half of an enormous statue of the pharaoh, which lines up perfectly with the lower section of a sculpture found nearby in 1930. In the Americas, the jade funerary mask of a Maya king and a richly adorned throne room that may have belonged to a female ruler of the Moche culture illuminated the lives of ancient monarchs in modern-day Guatemala and Peru, respectively. The throne room's murals tell us that powerful Moche women were not merely priestesses, but that they were leaders who wielded socio-political power as well. Among the most famous, or perhaps infamous, royal houses in world history is the Tudor dynasty, whose members ruled over England between 1485 and 1603. This year, 2 major discoveries connected to the Tudors came about in 2 very different ways. In Northamptonshire, locals had long heard tales of Collie Weston Palace, a lost Tudor manor visited by Henry VIII and Elizabeth I. These residents banded together to investigate the story, consulting the archives and experts to determine the palace's possible location. After years of research and digging, the group uncovered the base of a centuries-old wall and a foundation. The ruins have since been verified by scholars, providing closure for history enthusiasts who have long wondered about the local legend. "We're just a bunch of amateurs really, with no money, no plans, just a lot of enthusiasm," said the chair of the Historical and Preservation Society. While they dedicated significant resources to finding Collie Weston Palace, art historians stumbled onto a missing portrait of Henry VIII entirely by chance. While scrolling through X in July, a historian spotted a distinctive frame in the background of a photo taken at the local Shire Hall. Noticing the artwork's resemblance to a set of portraits commissioned by a local politician in the 1590s, the art historian examined the painting in person, and determined that it was a long-lost entry in the famous series. Fascinating findings related to religious history tell a story of diverse belief systems from the polytheism of the ancient Greeks and Romans to Buddhism and Christianity. A marble statue of Hermes, the Greek messenger god, paired well with a temple built to honor the Roman Emperor Constantine's imperial ancestors. In the 4th century CE, both discoveries date to the period when the Roman Empire was transitioning from polytheism to Christianity. Together they show how some ancient resisted this change, whether by surreptitiously hiding a pagan statue in a sewer, or constructing a state-sanctioned yet decidedly not Christian site of worship. An octagonal building uncovered in Armenia, the oldest Christian church in the country, and one of the oldest of its kind in the world, comes from a similar period to these Roman finds, dating to around 350 CE. Armenia is the oldest Christian state in the world. Elsewhere in the world, a 4,000-year-old ceremonial temple in Peru is poised to shed light on early religious practices in the region. It features an elaborate carving of a mythological bird-like creature that resembles a figure seen 500 years later in the art of the Chavin culture. We still know very little about how and under which circumstances complex belief systems emerged in the Andes. Now we have evidence about some of the earliest religious spaces that people were creating in this part of the world. In Egypt, meanwhile, excavations unearthed a hidden entrance to a 2,100-year-old temple that contains reliefs of the fertility god Minra and the lion-headed goddess Repet. Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology and History, the government agency responsible for preserving the country's rich cultural heritage, shared a slew of impressive finds this year, including a mysterious ancient the structure is hidden beneath a Maya ball court, remnants of hallucinogenic plants that may have been left as ceremonial offerings, and carved limestone lids used in Maya beekeeping between 950 and the early 1500s. Other indigenous cultures that left tangible traces of their presence ranged from the Nazca, a pre-Inca South American group known for creating the Nazca lines, to Aboriginal Australians. Earlier this year, an artificial intelligence-assisted survey detected hundreds of previously unknown geoglyphs carved into the surface of Peru's Nazca Desert. Older, smaller, and less distinct than the more famous Nazca lines, the art depicts human-like figures, livestock, cats, and even killer whales wielding weapons. In Australia, 2,000 to 3,000-year-old pottery fragments found on the island of Jiguru challenged long-held notions that Aboriginal people didn't create pottery. As the researchers who examined the fragments wrote, these individuals were, in truth, intimately engaged in ancient maritime networks, connecting them with people, knowledge, and technologies across the Coral Sea region, including the knowledge of how to make pottery. Finally, in Wisconsin, on the ancestral territory of the Ho-Chunk Nation, maritime archaeologists collaborated with indigenous leaders to recover nearly a dozen ancient canoes from the bottom of Lake Mendota. Spanning roughly 2500 BCE to 1250 CE, the vessels reinforce oral traditions that describe indigenous peoples traveling by dugout canoe in the Great Lakes region. Sunken ships open portholes to centuries past, presenting eerily preserved glimpses of vessels at the moment they met their demise. In the Great Lakes, where more than 6,000 shipwrecks have claimed an estimated 30,000 lives, researchers identified the wreckage of the Adela Shores, a wooden steamship that vanished in 1909, the Margaret A. Muir, a 130-foot schooner that sank in Lake Michigan with its captain's intelligent and faithful dog on board, and the Milwaukee, a steamship that collided with another vessel in 1886. Experts from the Michigan Shipwreck Research Association drew on newspaper reports to pinpoint the possible resting place of the Milwaukee, and they spotted the ship after just 2 days of searching the seabed with sonar technology. Further afield, a merchant vessel found off of Israel's coast, about 5,900 feet beneath the surface of the Mediterranean Sea, made headlines as the oldest deep-sea shipwreck identified to date. Dated to the late Bronze Age, the wreck testifies to ancient sailors' ability to navigate by looking at the stars, long before the development of tools like compasses and astrolabes. In China, a pair of Ming Dynasty merchant vessels hold more than 10,000 artifacts, around 900 of which have been recovered from the wreck. The porcelain, pottery, shells, copper coins, and other objects provide evidence that Chinese ancestors developed, utilized, and traveled to and from the South China Sea, with the two shipwrecks serving as important witnesses to trade and cultural exchanges. Canadian researchers unveiled one of the most significant maritime finds of the year in June, when they announced the discovery of the Quest, the steamship used by explorer Ernest Shackleton on his final expedition to Antarctica. Shackleton died of a heart attack on board the Quest in January 1922. Crew members found his body in his bed. After Shackleton's death, the vessel remained in use for 40 years, participating in seal hunting, Arctic research expeditions, and rescue missions. On May 5, 1962, sea ice pierced the Quest's hull, consigning it to a watery grave off the northeast coast of Canada. Every so often, amateur archaeologists, individuals without or currently working toward graduate degrees in the field, happen upon stunning historical treasures. Sometimes these individuals deliberately set out to unearth rare artifacts, aided by metal detectors and other tools. In other instances, the discoveries take place purely by chance. In the first category, persistence paid off for metal detectorists in Wales and Denmark, who uncovered a 300-year-old silver thimble engraved with a message of enduring love and a 1,500-year-old gold ring that may be linked to the Frankish Merovingian dynasty, respectively. A father and son in Poland also enjoyed treasure hunting success, chancing upon a cache of silver coins worth more than $120,000. The two were part of a metal detecting group searching for traces of an ancient road in a forest north of Warsaw. On the last day of a 2-week dig in Scotland, volunteer John Ralph stumbled onto a 1,000-year-old kite-shaped ring associated with the early medieval Picts. He saw a call on Facebook for volunteers for the dig at Berghead, and since it was the town he was raised in and his sister was there, he just thought, why not? In the realm of luck-driven finds, standouts included a young boy who found a Neanderthal hand axe while playing on a beach in England, a 13-year-old who spotted a Roman-era ring featuring an engraving of the goddess Minerva while hiking in Israel, and a geography teacher who unearthed a rock carved with Ogham script while pulling weeds in his garden. In the realm of ritual and superstition, archaeologists uncovered lead scrolls bearing ancient curses and miniature axes, likely used as votive offerings at a Roman-era villa in England, and graffiti carved by Roman prisoners who called on higher powers to punish their captors. "May the fortune of those who suffer in this lawless place prevail," one message read. "Lord, do not show mercy on the one who threw us here." Another stated, "Lord, make them die an awful death." A similarly vengeful call to action resurfaced at a medieval manor in England, where a tour guide noticed the name of one of the estate's former owners carved upside down above a crude drawing. When you get something like that, that is very much a curse. Someone has cursed him. Some finds revealed this year raised more questions than answers. In Egypt, ground-penetrating radar and electrical resistivity tomography surveys identified an anomaly near the Great Pyramid of Giza. Featuring a shallow structure connected to a deeper one, the mysterious underground chambers point to the possibility of the presence of archaeological remains. They must be excavated to establish their purpose. A dig in England, meanwhile, yielded yet another example of a Roman dodecahedron. The 12-sided metal object is one of more than 100 excavated throughout Europe. Dodecahedrons have long mystified archaeologists, who suggest the ancients used the items to predict the future and practice sorcery, or perhaps relied on them as measuring devices, calendars, or weapons. A more recent mystery, investigated by experts, centers on a 1924 expedition to Mount Everest. While filming a documentary on the mountain, a National Geographic team spotted the frozen foot and sock of Andrew Comyn Irvine, was a British explorer who attempted to summit Everest with partner George Mallory. The pair vanished during their ascent, enabling Tenzing Norgay and Edmund Hillary proclaimed themselves the first to reach Everest's summit 29 years later, in 1953. A climber found Mallory's body in 1999, but Irvine's fate remained unclear until now. The find doesn't confirm whether Irvine and Mallory beat Norgay and Hillary to the summit, losing their lives in the process. Still, it does represent a major development in the century-old mystery. As Benjamin Franklin once said, "In this world nothing is certain except death and taxes." Archaeological finds bear out the statesman's words, testifying to how different civilizations viewed these universal experiences. Often ancient burials offer evidence of funerary rituals designed to benefit the dead in the afterlife. In Poland, a dried-up lake bed held skeletal remains and more than 550 bronze artifacts linked to the Lusatian culture, which was active during the Late Bronze Age and Early Iron Age. Analysis of the site suggests the community buried its dead in the lake between 1040 and 780 BCE, then added metal jewelry like beads and pendants during later rituals. Ornate jewelry also featured in a Roman burial ground in central Italy, where researchers uncovered gold necklaces and earrings, amulets, and silver rings adorned with amber. All these riches, and the fact that the bones show no sign of stress or physical labor, these weren't local farmers, but upper-crust members of Roman families coming from cities. Excavations in Egypt offered insights into the Middle Kingdom, an era often overlooked in favor of the New Kingdom. Idi, the only daughter of a powerful Middle Kingdom governor, was buried in the ancient city of Asyut, in two nested coffins painted with advice on how she could find her way to the underworld. Near Luxor, archaeologists unearthed a necropolis that held the remains of several generations of an Egyptian family. It's the first Middle Kingdom tomb found in the area, as most burials from that period were destroyed during the New Kingdom. Taxes, as represented more generally by currency, proved to be a constant across time. Coin caches unearthed this year demonstrated the diverse circumstances that inspired the wealthy to stash their money away. In western Turkey, a pot of gold coins dated to the 5th century BCE might have been hidden during military conflicts between Greek and Persian forces. No one ever buries a hoard of coins, especially precious metal coins, without intending to retrieve it. So only the gravest misfortune can explain the preservation of such a treasure. Gold and silver coins found beneath the floors of a home in England also appear to be linked to a period of unrest. In this case, the First English Civil War, which took place between 1642 and 1646. The stash, which fetched more than $75,000 at auction, contrasted with 285 silver coins discovered in a former brewing town in Germany. That money likely belonged to the town's wealthy mayor, who was known to keep coins stashed around his property. It demonstrates the wealth of Wetton's late 17th century leader and the wide-ranging trade connections that brought different coins into his possession. Life in long-ago societies wasn't all work and no play. Clues to how people of the past spent their free time abound, from a medieval chess piece and a six-sided die discovered in a German castle to an ancient Roman villa in Albania that boasted an indoor pool. In England, divers exploring the River Tyne recovered a 2,000-year-old copper knife handle carved to resemble a gladiator. The figure appears to be left-handed, suggesting it was based on a real-life fighter, as the Romans believed left-handedness was unlucky and likely wouldn't have given this trait to a generic gladiator. Researchers don't know how the figurine ended up in the river, but they say its presence speaks to the cult of celebrity surrounding gladiators, who earned accolades for displaying prowess in the arena and courted fans as far afield as Rome and Britain. A mysterious toy found in Iceland evoked visions of children at play. Archaeologists excavating a farm site in Seyðisfjörður uncovered a tiny stone figurine dated to the Viking Age. Crafted out of palagonite tuff, a type of volcanic rock, the object has sparked debate, with scientists and social media users alike offering their opinions on what animal it represents. Some say the toy depicts a dog, while others say it's a horse, a bear, or a pig. Scientists plan on studying the figurine further to determine its identity, although it may remain open for discussion. Some remarkable finds revealed in 2024 didn't fit into the previous categories but still ranked among the most intriguing of the year. These eclectic discoveries included a 19th century chocolate factory in Barcelona and the oldest wine ever found in liquid form, a 2,000-year-old reddish-brown concoction unearthed in an ancient tomb in Spain. Other finds served as messages from the past, connecting 17th century schoolgirls to modern archaeologists who uncovered the students' decorative paper cuttings beneath the floorboards of their former London boarding school. We have long known about the role of Sutton House as a girls' school over its lifetime, but with few details about the classes, the pupils, or the teaching. This discovery brings to vivid life one of the skills that pupils were taught, and the painstaking process of handling, cutting, and coloring such tiny pieces of paper. In a reversal of the previous example, students volunteering at an archaeological dig in the French town of U stumbled onto a message in a bottle written by a French archaeologist who'd excavated that same site 200 years earlier. It's very rare in archaeology. Most archaeologists prefer to think that there won't be anyone coming after them because they've done all the work. Rounding out the incredible finds announced this year was a Q1 microcomputer from 1972, one of the world's oldest surviving desktop computers. Found by a cleaning crew in London, the device is the world's earliest microcomputer, built with a single chip rather than multiple microchips. Few examples survive today, but the Q1 left its mark on the world, laying the foundation for today's everything device, the modern computer now so ubiquitous in everyday life. We rely on computers for our work, communication, productivity, and entertainment, but without the early trailblazers, none of these would exist.